Tonight, billions for dental care and grocery rebates. The federal budget delivered today promises big spending and a deeper deficit. Also, after a battle with cancer, Saskatchewan MLA and former sportscaster Meyers passes away. Plus, who is dying of drug poisoning in Saskatchewan and why? We check in with the province's chief coroner for some perspective.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Tuesday, March 28th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. Some extra cash is coming your way if you live on a low or modest income. Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland tabled a federal budget today. It promises a one-time grocery rebate, and it projects a deficit about $10 billion higher than forecast. Rafi Bujikanian has more.
This government's seventh budget, the finance minister is finding something to smile about.
I am so proud to announce the creation of a new Canadian dental care plan.
With a $13 billion investment over 5 years to back it up. To qualify, Canadians will need to make less than $90,000 a year, something the NDP had wanted for a long time, but not all opposition parties are happy. The Conservatives are voting against it.
Everything in this budget will make it more expensive to eat, heat, and house yourself.
A big part of what the government is spending is in clean tech. $21 billion over the next 5 years, $80 billion by 2034, encouraging private sector investment in revamping the electricity grid, also for more carbon capture and clean hydrogen.
I really believe we are at a turning point. President Biden was here in Ottawa on Friday. He said this is an inflection point of the kind that you encounter every 5 or 6 generations. A failure to put forward a comprehensive, effective, and adequately financed plan to build the clean economy of the 21st century would mean consigning Canada to deindustrialization.
Money targeted to traditionally male-dominated industries. Some observers say the cash should have come with strings attached to help women in the workforce, same as what the USA is doing with its Inflation Reduction Act.
Where did the feminist government of Canada go? We're not even mimicking everything that Joe Biden put in the IRA. For example, in the IRA, when they say, yeah, we'll give you money to pivot towards green energy, you make sure you provide childcare for your workers. It's not there.
The government is still pointing to inexpensive childcare across the country by 2026. And this year, for low-income Canadians, it's also introducing a one-time grocery rebate worth $2.5 billion overall. Rafi Bujikanian, CBC News, Ottawa.
And a note, to qualify for that grocery rebate, you had to earn below $40,000 in 2021. A single person with no children could receive as much as $234. A couple with 2 kids could see $467. The money would come as a GST credit, and it can be spent on anything, not just groceries. Here in Saskatchewan, the Legislative Assembly and other government events were cancelled this afternoon after news Saskatchewan Party MLA Meyers passed away. Flags at the Legislative Building have been lowered to half-mast, and inside there's a photo of Meyers and a book of condolences. Just 45 years old, Meyers died from cancer. He was well known in the province, first as a sportscaster, then as a politician. Meyers was elected in 2020 in the riding of Regina Walsh Acres. He invited CBC News along on the campaign trail and shared what motivated him.
So I grew up on a farm in southeast Saskatchewan, worked in the oil field for a number of years, and most people know that I worked in the local media here. So I've always been a little bit of a political junkie. But when I was a kid, I always felt like I had to leave this province to get ahead, to have every opportunity. I don't feel that way anymore since I returned here in 2008, and I just don't want to see my kids feel that way either. I want to see them have every opportunity to grow here and raise their families here, and that was a real important part of me entering into the political arena.
Premier Scott Moe says Meyers was a tireless advocate for people facing mental health challenges. Moe tweeted his condolences and a tribute. He said, quote, "Through all of the challenges he faced, Derek remained one of the most upbeat and positive people I have ever met." End quote. Meyers leaves behind his partner Lori and 3 children. A Saskatoon man is warning others about the dangers of buying painkillers and antidepressants off the street. Don Wardell's brother died from drug poisoning 2 years ago. Don says his brother, 24-year-old Cass Wardell, died from fentanyl overdose after buying pills from someone he trusted. The young father struggled with anxiety and depression and self-medicated with street drugs. Don says he hopes it's a wake-up call for others, just like it was for him.
Everything that I do, like literally every single day, is in honor of my little brother. So it's still hard to talk about sometimes, but yeah, he was just always really, really happy. So it was kind of hard to distinguish where he started suffering depression from, like throughout his life, because he'd always be smiling. So it was really hard to determine, you know, where it came from. When the prescriptions ran out and my brother couldn't get any help anymore, he turned to street drugs. And so after he turned to street drugs, that was it. It was game over after that. I know my brother had purchased Xanax, and in the Xanax, there was fentanyl laced in the Xanax without my brother's knowledge. It could be Xanax, it could be cocaine, it could be whatever it is that you're into. Guaranteed there's a chance that it could be laced with fentanyl, that those drugs are not safe. Yeah, I'm going on 2 years of sobriety now, and with the drugs aspect, I guarantee I could see my brother just looking down at me saying, don't do it, don't do it. So it's just common sense to me. I'll never, ever pick up a bottle or do any drugs ever again.
Cass Wardell was found dead by his mom on Mother's Day. No one is more aware of the overdose crisis than Saskatchewan's chief coroner. His office is responsible for investigating the cause of death for each fatal overdose, and it can barely keep up with demand. Chief Coroner Clive Wayhill joins me now from Saskatoon. Thank you for being here.
You're more than welcome. Thanks for having me on.
We are 3 months into 2023. How many people have overdosed already this year, and what does that tell you?
Well, so far we're looking at approximately 103 that's suspected drug overdose. That number may change a little bit, but certainly we're in that 100 person range. We're on a trend similar to where we were last year.
What does that tell you?
We certainly still have a problem in Saskatchewan, that we have a problem right across the nation, never mind just Saskatchewan, but certainly we're not seeing it lessen at all. And it certainly is concerning, I think, for everybody within the province here. That's a lot of people that are perishing that probably could be prevented.
We know more than 1,200 people have died from drug poisoning in our province since the start of 2020. What conclusions have you drawn about who it is that's dying?
We seem to see about, 5 main big areas. It could be somebody that had a back injury, was on some type of opioid, and now the doctors are very reticent to give those prescriptions, so maybe seeking illegal drugs to relieve the pain. It could be somebody that's using some cocaine, has no idea it has fentanyl in it. It could be a person that likes the fentanyl high. I believe from what I hear, it's a very good high. So people that are addicted to drugs and in that lifestyle certainly like that. It could be somebody just experimenting with drugs. So, it's not just one easy fix to look at. And I think there's a popular misconception that it's homeless people, young people that are involved in this. And our numbers show that it's mainly males or in that 35 to 45 year age group, had jobs before, productive lives, but unfortunately got involved with drugs.
What do we know about the drugs themselves?
Well, it's mainly fentanyl that's causing the issue, fentanyl and its derivatives. We very seldom see just one drug involved. It could be a mixture of cocaine and fentanyl. It could be a mixture of fentanyl, methamphetamine, alcohol, fentanyl, etazolam, alcohol. It's never just one drug. There's usually polysubstance.
So would you say that's what's causing the overdoses, is the mixing?
It's a mixing, but mainly the main one that's in that mixture that's causing the problems is the fentanyl.
There have been some recent warnings in other cities about an animal tranquilizer that's being mixed into drugs. What concerns do you have about that here in Saskatchewan?
Yes, we've seen that across different provinces as well. We haven't seen much of that in the province since I'd say, the fall. But we're seeing xylazine, atazolam, some other drugs that are sedatives. The problem with those is that we all have learned that naloxone is very useful. If somebody has a fentanyl overdose, it will bring them back again. But if they're mixing it with sedatives, the naloxone might work against the fentanyl, but it has nothing to do with the sedative. So that's not going to help that part of the drug. So it's still very dangerous.
You were recently asked by the family of Shane Turner to hold an inquest into his death from an overdose. Instead, you chose to make recommendations yourself, including quick access to detox. What needs to happen and why?
Yes, we met with the family of Shane Turner, and we discussed the pros and cons of an inquest. I know the family did want an inquest, but the recommendations that I can make hold as much weight as what would come from an inquest as well, too. So it was a lot quicker for us to get those recommendations out. I've had responses back from the health region. They put some extra measures in place now so that people will get attention right away and not be released. Almost in every case now, they'll either find a brief detox bed for them, at least until they can get into a longer term.
What action do you see your office taking in the future to try to prevent more of these kinds of deaths?
Well, there's not too much that my office can do specifically. I think when you talk, but globally, I think public awareness is very important. As I mentioned earlier, people think it's homeless people and young people. It's not. It's anybody. It doesn't matter what race, age group, right across the province geographically that are involved in this. I think the more we can talk about it, the better. Addiction beds would certainly be helpful. The minister's announced, I think, another 150 addiction beds here in the province. So there's a lot of pieces to this pie. We need mental health and addictions. Enforcement, I think, has a part to play with it. And I think discussing with people with lived experience. I mean, they're the ones that know why they got into the drug life that they're in, what maybe turned them into drugs, and they may have some ideas on how to help people get away from the drugs.
Thanks for shedding some light on this today, Mr. Wayhill.
You're more than welcome anytime.
Saskatchewan's Chief Coroner Clive Wayhill, based in Saskatoon. Hockey players from Canada's 2018 World Junior Hockey team will not be considered for international competition until an investigation into an alleged sexual assault involving members of the team is complete. In a statement obtained by the Canadian press, Hockey Canada says the decision was made earlier this year. The statement came hours after a parliamentary committee unanimously passed a motion ordering Hockey Canada to hand over a report from an investigation into 2018 allegations. Last May, news broke that some members of the 2018 World Junior team were accused of a group sexual assault after a Hockey Canada gala event in London, Ontario. More than 230 people fleeing the war in Ukraine landed in Regina yesterday. It was the fifth flight bringing people to Saskatchewan at no cost to them through a partnership between the provincial government and two international humanitarian organizations. That partnership was signed back in August of 2022 with Solid Air and Open Arms. Ukrainians actually started arriving back in July under the agreement. When they land, newcomers are provided accommodation and help with health cards, driver's licenses, and job matching. Saskatchewan's immigration minister says they're working on how to let people stay long-term if they want to.
They have come on what's called a QIT visa. So that is issued by the Government of Canada. It's a 3-year visa, and they're able to work under that visa. And one of the things that we have spoken about as recently as a couple of weeks ago as ministers of immigration from across Canada is what a path to permanency looks like for those who are here on the Canada-Ukraine emergency visa. So those discussions will continue, but there will be paths to permanency for those who seek it.
The government says nearly 4,000 Ukrainians now call Saskatchewan home. Harrison says the government has not put a limit on the number of Ukrainians they will accept. He did not say whether there will be any additional humanitarian flights. You know what? Thank goodness for the sun, because that makes these cold spring days way more bearable. This is how things looked in Saskatoon today. Pretty nice out there if you ignore the cold temperature. This day last year, Saskatoon got up to 5 degrees, and in 2021, it was almost 7 degrees. So what's coming for the rest of the week? Heather Morrison will have your forecast after the break. Stay with us.
This weather update is brought to you by Mercedes-Benz Regina, part of the Capital Automotive Group.
And Heather Morrison joins me now with a look at your forecast. Heather, I don't want to belabor the point here, but you promised us a warm up, and it's not warm.
It's coming, I promise. Okay, so we're about 5 degrees warmer than we were yesterday, and we got even warmer temperatures coming tomorrow. But first, we have to get through one more cold night. Let's take a look at what we're going to be waking up to tomorrow in the province. So not as bad. Let me remind you that Saskatoon woke up to minus 27 this morning. So waking up to minus 15, that's not bad, except when you think about the fact that it is March. It's going to be March 29th. But Sam, as sorry as we are feeling for ourselves, we have to look no further than our neighbors over at Manitoba to feel a little bit better. So this is a great story from our Manitoba colleague, Darren Bernhardt. And he looked back and figured out that Winnipeg is likely to go through its first March without a single day above the freezing mark since 1899. The closest that Winnipeg came to breaking that zero mark was hitting minus 0.8 degrees Celsius. Doesn't look like that's going to change for them. Saskatoon, we went above zero one day. Regina, 2 days. Maple Creek just showing off 16 days above zero in March. So there you go. Now here's what's going to happen temperature-wise with our province here. So as you can see, we've got this upper atmosphere. See those blues there, that ridge? It's moving on, and we're going to slowly see that warm up and that warmer air come up. See that light green peeking its way into the southwest corner of the province. But there's another thing that's happening there where the Arctic air is actually going to be dipping down into the northern part of the province. So we're going to have this south and central region getting this warm up. We're still going to be about 5 degrees below normal. And then the north is still going to be milder, but they're going to have a little bit of a visitor with it because they're getting that low pushing in from the north. There it is. They've got snow coming tomorrow afternoon as well. The rest of us can enjoy a mix of sun and cloud until Thursday. Then it looks like we're going to get some snowfall. Wind speeds also picking up as we're having this movement in the upper atmosphere. As you can see, it's a little bit gusty and swift current right now. We've got some wind speeds picking up. Stony Rapids there at 36, and tomorrow morning it's gonna die down overnight and then pick up throughout the day tomorrow. Here's your 7-day forecast. So as you can see, not quite where we should be. A typical high for Regina around this time would be +6. We're going to be sitting about -2 tomorrow and Thursday. And we are still going to have one more cold night after this one as well. And in Saskatoon, we can take a look here. So warming up all the way to zero. We'll see if we beat our Manitoba neighbors and get above that zero mark tomorrow. And then on Thursday, -4. So we drop back down and then we go up again on Friday. So as you can see there, Sam, not a bad week ahead of us, and we should be grateful that we're not living in Winnipeg this month.
Anything to turn it into a competition. Thanks, Heather.
I'm a competitive person, Sam. You're welcome. Thank you.
That's 82-year-old Mary Smith at Montreal Lake Cree Nation Winterfest over the weekend. Smith uses a walker, but she tossed it aside to compete in the jigging contest. The elder goes by the nickname Muskwa, which means bear in Cree. She placed 3rd in the ladies 50-plus category. We'll be back after the break. A police officer in Quebec has died after being attacked by a man with a knife. The officer, Maureen Bro, and her colleague were in the process of arresting the man at the time. The other officer was injured. The officers were responding to reports of a man making threats in a small town about 100 kilometers northeast of Montreal. The man was killed by 2 other officers who arrived after the attack. The 35-year-old had previous run-ins with law enforcement but was never found criminally responsible. Bro had been on the department for more than 20 years. She leaves behind her husband, also a police officer, and 2 children. Another mass shooting at a school in the United States has led to renewed calls for stricter gun control. 3 9-year-old students and 3 adult staff members were killed at a private Christian school in Nashville yesterday. Magda Gabrisalassis has the latest.
The guns used to kill 3 students and 3 school staff were purchased legally. That's what we learned today. The suspect, Audrey Hale, owned 7 guns in total, police said, and 3 of those were used in this shooting. Police say Hale's parents thought there was only 1 gun and that it had been sold off. These details come as new video was released today. Cameras at the school show the suspect arriving and getting into the school by shooting through the glass doors.
3!
The body camera footage from police shows officers arriving at the school. They find the front door locked and get in with a key. It's on the 2nd floor. They confront the suspect. The whole thing is over in minutes, but there were already several victims. The students that died are Evelyn Dickhouse, Haley Scruggs, and William Kinney. And the staff that were killed include Cynthia Peak, a substitute teacher, Mike Hill, a custodian, and Catherine Coons, the head of the school. Police still say there's no evidence that the victims were targeted specifically, just that the school was. Hale was a former student, and the police chief said investigators learned this from Hale's parents.
She was under care, doctor's care, for an emotional disorder. Law enforcement knew nothing about the treatment she was receiving.
A motive hasn't been determined yet, but police say they have the shooter's manifesto. And as the investigation continues, the call for stricter gun restrictions has been renewed.
Why in God's name do we allow these weapons of war in our streets and at our schools?
President Biden wants Congress to pass an assault weapons ban. As the politicians continue to disagree, this community and many more continue to mourn the many victims lost to gun violence. Magda Gebrselassie, CBC News, Washington.
A 12-year-old Manitoba girl is being credited with saving her little brother's lives when a fire broke out in the basement of their family home earlier this month.
So I ran upstairs and I grabbed both of my siblings and my 2 animals and went out and called 911 right away. I was just bawling my eyes out, super scared because of one of my cats. She was dead already in there, and I thought she could make it out, but she didn't. And yeah, so it was just super scary for me.
Emily Neufeld was home alone with her 2 siblings when the fire broke out and quickly spread through the basement. She got her brothers and the family pets out in time. The family was later told the source of the fire, a plug-in wax warmer that had been too close to a towel. Despite her panic, Emily says she remembered an important lesson from a fire safety course last year. It was to worry about lives and not about things, because things are replaceable. And Heather is back with one last look at your weather.
Hey, Sam, well, we do have a chilly night in store for us in the province. Let's take a look at what Regina is going to be seeing overnight here. So we've got a low of minus 20 with the wind chill, making it feel like minus 27. These aren't late March temperatures, but we are going to start seeing that warm up, and it's going to start even before you wake up. So waking up to minus 15 tomorrow, and then throughout the day, you can see that temperature climb minus 6. Still a little below where we should be, but not too bad, especially compared to the last 2 days. Minus 16 overnight in Saskatoon. That wind chill still being a factor as that wind's going to pick up a little bit tomorrow. Minus 13. And then by noon here, you can see we're at minus 5. Keep in mind, we're at a minus 11 at noon today in Saskatoon. So the warm up is coming. We just got to wait a little bit longer.
Oh, I can't wait. I mean, I guess I have to, but I can't wait. Thanks, Heather.
Thanks, Sam.
And that's it for us tonight. For news anytime, you can always head to our website or our YouTube channel. Glenn Reed will be back with more local news tonight at 11. Thanks for watching and have a great night. Stay warm.